For some reason, Digimon the movie always makes me think of summer, even though it had an October release. Probably because when I was a kid, these were the kinds of movies I went to see with my friends in the summer. Anime imports with questionable dubs. Digimon the movie is actually 3 Japanese films clumsily spliced into one. Thanks to the internet, this is pretty common knowledge nowadays, but back then, all we could do was watch and wonder in horror what had happened to our beloved Digimon, because this wasn't it. And seeing how it's still August, the month of Odaiba Memorial Day, and seeing that Digimon is going to make a huge comeback this fall with Tri, let's take a look back at the dubbed Digimon movies. The dub of Digimon the movie tries desperately to convince the audience that the 3 stories presented between the time skips are related. Really, they have nothing to do with each other. The first part comes from the film Digimon Adventure, which aired in Japan on March 6th, 1999, one day before the anime. It served as a prequel and an origin story for the Digidestined, and was referenced in the anime itself. The films feature a completely distinct style from the anime. It's looser and not as clean as the series animation, but it also allows for a greater sense of movement. It's more expressive and more alive, and thanks to the higher budget, the monster fights look much more impressive. In terms of footage, not much is missing from this first section. The biggest thing to be cut here was this awkward scene where Taichi and Hikari's father comes home late, drunk, and tries to get into their bedroom to kiss them goodnight while their mother scolds him for doing this, apparently every night. It's odd because the anime itself never hints at the fact that the father had a drinking problem. The Yagamis were very average people, in keeping with the fact that Taichi was the main character and therefore the most average of the bunch. But it does explain why Tai is holding the doorknob in this scene. He wasn't trying to escape the monster changing shape in his room. He was trying to keep his father from drunkenly barging in on him and his sister. Again. If you dig deep, there's probably some subtle commentary on what it really means to behave monstrously. But there's no way this would fly with an American audience, so out it goes. The dub is most notorious for its obnoxious info dumping. Kari babbles a constant narration that takes away more than it adds. Fans of Digimon already know everything she's talking about, but the exposition goes by so fast there's no time for new viewers to process it. The dub is overstuffed with meaningless dialogue, bad jokes, and constant orchestration, as if even a moment of silence will bore the children. The original film was slow, quiet, and most importantly, open-ended. It's a simple story about 2 ordinary children who experience something fantastic that they can't fully explain until years later. It asks more questions than it answers, and it's supposed to be this way, and the dub robs the story of all of that. The original film ended with a triumphant arrangement of Butterfly over some truly gorgeous animation. In the dub, Kari narrates some more, ruining any sense of atmosphere or tension, and trying in vain to convince us that a character named Willis has something to do with all of this. And then we get a flash forward 4 years later to the second third of the film. And against all odds, this is the part of the movie American fans actually still remember with fondness. This part of the film comes from our war game, and after comparing the dub to the original, there's not a whole lot of difference. A few shots are trimmed for time, there are some bad jokes, and of course the dialogue is changed to forcibly insert Willis into the story, but other than that, the dub stays pretty true to the intent of the original. Aside from some late 90s pop songs here and there, the tone remains largely the same. It's funny when it's supposed to be, and serious when it's supposed to be. There is some controversy about how Taiora heavy the story is. Apparently, director Mamoru Hosoda was a huge fan of the couple, not knowing it wasn't supposed to be canon. The dub doesn't help with a major mistranslation. In the original, Taichi was just trying to figure out the right characters to write his name correctly. The dub changes this to Tai freaking out about whether to sign the email with love or from. But other than that, the adaptive script is pretty solid here. Easily the most memorable part of the story is the appearance of Omnimon, a truly awesome scene that introduced a whole new type of Digivolution. This would have been a near perfect scene in the dub if they hadn't decided to bring Kari's narration back abruptly and without reason.
None of us are sure how, but Ty's bond with War Greymon was so strong, Ty himself became digital.
Also, and this is the only time I will ever say this, but I actually think the score in this scene is better in the dub. The original score is lovely, don't get me wrong, it's fine, but for me the dub music just better captures the feeling of a game-changing new evolution that finally turns a hopeless battle in favor of the good guys. Maybe it's just a cultural thing. The dub score is more bombastic and triumphant than the original, but I stand by it. Simple as it is, the dub theme is pretty well loved among the fan base, and it never sounds better than right here. It's certainly much better than
the Digivolution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know what's coming?
Well, in any case, Omnimon's appearance and the disarming of the missiles would have made an excellent finale. Most fans agree that Digimon the movie should have ended here, and if Jeff Nimoy had gotten his way, it would have. He pushed to end the film here, and released the dub of Hurricane Touchdown as a separate TV special. Too bad the Fox executives didn't agree, so we get another time skip to the third story. This is Hurricane Touchdown, and it is by far the weakest part of Digimon the movie. Our wargame has a satisfying climax. When those missiles are deactivated, the audience is emotionally ready for the story to be over. But then Digimon the movie forces the audience to stay seated for another half hour and some of the most boring animation ever. I'm not saying the original story is boring, although it kind of is, but the dub strips away what little meaning the original story has and leaves nothing but dry, meaningless fight sequences. The animation may be gorgeous, but the audience can't truly get invested if they don't know who's fighting or why. Hurricane Touchdown is an hour long all on its own. There is no way it should have been included in an adaptation that already featured 2 other films. Much like Digimon Adventure, this film is slow, quiet, and extremely atmospheric. It can be downright chilling at times in its reliance on ambient sound to carry the mood. When you don't allow the story room to breathe, it loses all its meaning. Which is especially bad here because, I'm sorry, but this is one of the weaker Digimon films, even in the original Japanese. Digimon Adventure worked because it was shrouded in mystery. It leaves the viewer wanting to know more. Our wargame worked because we knew these characters so well. We just loved seeing them all again. But Hurricane Touchdown? Well, not only are the 02 kids less well developed than the Adventure kids, but this film gives them next to nothing to do. This is the story of Wallace, Willis in the dub, a lonely boy who one day receives his very own friends in the form of his Digimon partners. One day, one of them is attacked by an unknown virus, a virus which has absolutely nothing to do with Diaboromon. The poor Digimon undergoes a dark digivolution, and from then on, Wallace is determined to stop his partner before he can do any more damage. There's a whole subplot removed entirely from the dub, where Chocomon kidnaps all of the older kids. Apparently the virus is impeding his ability to recognize his partner, because human children change over time but Digimon do not. So Chocomon de-ages all of the kids in a desperate attempt to find Wallace. Seeing Wallace throw himself in front of Chocomon and say, "Here I am! Stop attacking the others!" only for Chocomon to yell, "You're not Wallace!" is terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time. The dub removes all of this deep emotion for a half-assed and pointless attempt to link Willis to the Diaboromon fiasco. And it's sad because the original story does have so much deep potential. Like this scene. You know this scene. The most infamous cut in the dub's history.
That's the saddest story I ever heard.
I'm the one with the problem, not you. Get over it.
Okay.
Ugh, it's just so frustrating because Daisuke doesn't get much development in the series, and his reaction to Wallace's story says a lot about his character. He's not just upset because Wallace's story is sad, he's upset by the revelation that the monster they've been fighting is Wallace's corrupted partner, who they now have to destroy to save the world, not to mention Taichi and the other kids. Faced with this overwhelming realization, Daisuke actually empathizes with the difficult task Wallace is facing, saying that he'd never be able to destroy Vmon if it was up to him.
俺だってできねえよ。もし V モンが今の V モンじゃなくなってとてつもなく凶暴になったとしても V モンを倒すなんて絶対にできねえ。
Moreover, Daisuke only calms down when Wallace tells him there's a slight chance they can revert Chokomon back to normal, if they can just get him back to the field where the virus first attacks him. Daisuke is very much a never say die, no man gets left behind kind of character, and he grasps onto this flimsy chance with everything he's got. This information also provides a greater context for why the kids are trying so hard to get back to the flower field in the first place. It's better than the vague, go back to the beginning stuff they gave us in the dub. And I know I'm biased towards Davis to begin with, but this was a huge missed opportunity to show off a deeper side of his character in the dub. At least he fares better than the other 02 kids, whose entire involvement in this story consists of hitchhiking to the final battle scene. In fact, that may be my biggest problem with this story as a whole. There's just not a lot of great character development. Digimon Adventure didn't have any, but that wasn't the point. Our war game didn't have any, but we already knew and loved these characters. Hurricane Touchdown introduces a new character, but doesn't do much over the course of the film to make him stand out. Maybe it's just an unfortunate side effect of having seen the dub first, but I never felt much of an emotional connection to Willis. It doesn't help that this story culminates in a deus ex machina that completely screws with the rules of the universe. Yeah, it's cool to see Patamon and Gatsumon go to Mega, but at no point in Digimon's admittedly convoluted canon is it hinted that Mega Digimon have the power to release golden Digi-Eggs just by digivolving. It's just a flimsy excuse to get Magnamon back on screen. And while I have no problem seeing Magnamon again, this golden armor Rapidmon just doesn't do it for me. They didn't even give Terriermon a new evolution for the Egg of Fate. They just palette swapped his ultimate form. The fact that they even introduced an entirely new crest and then gave it to a character who only appears in this one non-canonical movie and a similarly non-canonical drama CD kind of feels like a slap in the face. Crests are an important part of the Digimon franchise. They have to be earned by their bearers, and watching the original kids learn how to unlock theirs was one of the best parts of the Adventure series. There's no explanation for why Willis has the Crest of Fate, and it never shows up again in any part of the franchise. Maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but this genuinely bothers me. Fate never seems to fit in with the other crests, and yet if you want a truly complete set, you can't just leave it out. It just feels like a lot of emotional investment to give a one-off character. Hey, what if Ken had been given the Crest of Fate? No, think about it. Ken's whole redemption arc revolved around how he only saw himself as a villain who couldn't possibly change, and the only way to atone for his crimes was to die for them. He only became a villain in the first place because he thought it was his destiny. Can you imagine how great it would have been if Ken had unlocked the Crest of Fate, and by doing so discovered that destiny is something you choose for yourself, that he had the power to change his own fate? I know I'm getting really nitpicky at this point. I can't judge Hurricane Touchdown for what it isn't, but this film has never really stood out for me. It has a strong atmosphere and some amazing animation, but overall the story is not that strong. If this was the only dubbed film that featured the Adventure Kids, I would be extremely disappointed. Fortunately,